Welcome to another Steeler Thoughts and Chief Feelings film review. This video will review the Chiefs-Saints Week 5 contest on Monday Night Football. It was a Chiefs 26-13 victory. Before we get started, I just wanted to thank all of you that follow along with these film reviews on YouTube or with our video podcast, the Steeler Thoughts Chief Feelings podcast. Also, thanks to those of you who download the audio version of the podcast. It's available wherever you download podcasts, Steeler Thoughts, Chief Feelings. And thank you to all of you that engage on social media. We have the same handle for TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. It's at STCF715. We appreciate those of you who watch the clips of the film reviews and the podcast that we post, and those of you who follow along specifically on Twitter on game days, because we talk about the Chiefs and Steeler games during and immediately after their games. So thank you to all of you that engage and follow along. Now let's get to this game. Here we have the first drive of the game. The Saints have the ball. They actually, interestingly, elected to take the ball. They won the coin toss and took the ball, which is less common these days. Most teams tend to defer so that they can get the ball to start the second half. But the Saints clearly felt like they wanted a fast start in this game. Not that, every team wants to start fast, but the Saints thought it was particularly important for their game script, so they asked for the ball to start the game. And they were moving the ball pretty well early. Here they are down to the Chiefs' 39-yard line, and they have a 1st and 10. So let's get into the play. The Saints start out here in 11 personnel. They've got one running back and one tight end. That's what gets you the 11 personnel. The tight end comes in tight, and the Chiefs have matched this with their nickel package. So they only have 2 linebackers, and they've got 5 defensive backs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And let's see what the Saints are going to try to do here. So they're basically trying to get a high-low on both sides of their formation. So they're going to have the tight end run a curl, and the receiver out here is going to run a deep out. Then the slot receiver, Olave, here runs a curl, and Shaheed is going to run a go. The Chiefs' defense is in essentially a cover 2 man, although it's not so simply man on this side of the field. Over here, you got man-to-man Jalen Watson on Shaheed. Chamari Conner is actually going to blitz off the edge, and so Bolton is manned up on Chris Olave. We'll get back to that in just a moment. On this side, they've kind of done a match principle where McDuffie is taken outside, Tranquil's taken inside, and they've got Justin Reed over the top. So let's see this in action. First, kind of starting with the blitz concept. So pretty simple here. They're just bringing a slot blitzer. It isn't like one of those really crazy exotic Spags blitzes. But the Saints are trying to double team Chris Jones, as they're understandably worried about him. So they use the guard and the center. And so that means since the Chiefs are bringing 5, they have 3 linemen and the running back to block the other 4, since 2 people are going to occupy Chris Jones. So here the left tackle has got the end here. That looks like Dana up there. Wharton is going to be taken by the right guard, and the right tackle is going to have to decide between Karlaftis and Chamari Conner. Now this is where someone who understands offensive line play and protections better than I can help me out. My understanding is in this situation, you take the guy with the shortest path to the quarterback, so you should be taking Karlaftis, and Kamara should come out and get the blitzer wide. The tackle instead takes Conner and lets Karlaftis free through the B gap. Kamara has to come up from his single back position to try to block Karlaftis, and he essentially just gets run over. And Carr really feels this pressure. And if you watch, this is something that was fairly consistent, and honestly has been consistent for Carr since he came in the league in 2016. When he plays the Chiefs, and I'm assuming this happens when he plays other teams too, I just tend to watch him when he plays the Chiefs. When he's faced with pressure, he perceives pressure, he has a tendency to fade away like this, throw off his back foot falling back, and he will throw what Matt Lane at the Kansas City Sports Network terms YOLO balls. He'll throw it up for grabs. And we saw that a couple times during this game, that if you get pressure on him, you get him moving back, he'll throw it up there. And he did so in this case and threw an interception to Bryan Cook. But let's kind of look at what he should be reading here, because, one of the basic principles, one of the rules of thumb, I should say, in quarterback plays, when you've got a blitzer, you got to look for your hot option, right? You should always on any play have some player that is going to be your hot read that you can get the ball out quick when you can't protect everything that they're sending at you. And one kind of quick hot option is to try to throw behind the blitz. So Connor's coming off the edge. He needs Bolton to rotate to help cover. You have a curl route right here. To me, like, this should be read number one once Carr realizes that there's going to be pressure. He's got a blitz off the edge. There's Olave coming on the curl right there. Like, to me, that should be the throw. And Carr is dropping back. And what you'd like, and this is where, Carr just has not ever really been this guy, but ideally, especially if you trust that, because Kamara, for, even though he got crushed here, he is able to slow Karlaftis enough. What you'd hope is that right here, Carr plants and just fires it on a line to Olave. I mean, and Olave at this point is about 5 yards past the line of scrimmage. If he can catch this and turn it upfield, you might be getting like an 8 or 9 yard gain on first down, maybe more if he can make the safety miss. Instead, Carr decides to fade back and just lob it up to Rashid Shaheed, and there's a safety over the top. So this is not a good decision, especially if you can't make an accurate throw. The throw is such a moonshot that everyone has trouble tracking it. Shaheed and Jalen Watson struggle. Jalen Watson, I think, doesn't really ever get eyes on the ball, and that's why you can see him down here kind of he sees Shaheed stop and he doesn't know where the ball is, but Cook manages to track it and make an acrobatic interception, and the Chiefs get a big turnover to start the game. So to see it again, really, like, what one would hope is that when this blitz is noticed, this is your guy. Hot route, get it now. Stand and plant, get your feet under you, at least, even if you're not stepping up, just plant and not be fading away, and get that throw out on time. But instead, he lobs it up, intercepted by the Chiefs. Just for reference, this was a fairly funny moment. So, Cook makes this catch, and it turns out that Shaheed down here managed to contact his leg right here, slightly right as he was going down. Somewhere in this area, he touched his leg. So Cook ends up being down by contact. And Connor, I guess, thought he was down or out of bounds, so he's ready. Or not Connor. Watson is like, let's go celebrate. But Cook is unsure if he's down, so he's like, hey, man, we got to run this back. Let's go. And Bolton's coming over and being like, wait, what are we celebrating? Let's try to go run this back. So in the moment, a pretty funny moment. It ended up being called back, and Cook was down. But here you can see. So remember, we've got 2 for Jones, 1 for Dana. Then Wharton is going to take this guard, and so the tackle has to decide between Karlaftis, who's going to come into the B gap, and Connor, who's blitzing on the outside. And this is where I would think that what he should do is take Karlaftis, let Connor go free, and let Kamara come up and meet Connor. But what he does do is let Karlaftis through, and Karlaftis just runs over Connor. But as you can see, Karlaftis runs over Kamara. But as you can see, Carr does have, if he wanted to make the throw we were telling him to make, he has enough room to just stop and plant and throw. Instead, he lobs up the YOLO ball, and Cook jumped early, but is still able to corral that for a big interception on the first drive. All right, we've jumped ahead in the game. We're now well into the second quarter, and the Chiefs have a 10-0 lead. The Chiefs have really kind of dominated the game to this point. Since that interception we just showed you, the Chiefs have scored a touchdown, and then they punted, and then they scored a field goal. They actually scored a touchdown on that drive, too, and it was called back for holding. So They've had 2 times in the red zone. They got a touchdown and field goal out of it. And the Saints have had 2 3-and-outs. And now the Saints get the ball back, down 10-0, starting to approach halftime. I think we're under 10 minutes to go now in the second quarter. And they're moving the ball now. And they've got a 2nd and 9 between the 43 and 44 yard line of Kansas City. And the Saints here come out in 11 personnel. You can see they've got I honestly don't know the Saints personnel that well. This actually might be 2 tight ends. But they've got their 1 running back, which gives you the 1 digit. And this is either 11 or 12 personnel, depending on whether this guy in the end is a wide receiver or a tight end. Apologies for not knowing the Saints personnel that well. And they decide to run a very deep concept. So basically what they're doing, they get Kamara out here, and he's going to run an out route. Olave is going to come in and run a deep curl. And on the outside, this guy's going to come run a deep in. And Shaheed is going to attack the middle with a kind of post route. And the Chiefs are in cover 2. They're essentially running cover 2 man. But Bolton kind of has Shaheed because he's in the slot, and he passes him off to the safety. So whereas a lot of times in cover 2 man, like you've got your guy and you have the safety over the top. In this scenario, Shaheed essentially is just one-on-one with the safety because Bolton is not running with him down the field. Once it becomes the case that he's running a deep route, Bolton passes him off and he becomes the safety's responsibilities. Now, one of the things we've covered in previous videos and film study is that in the cover 2, your real one major area to attack is in between the 2 safeties, because the safeties, especially when you have guys challenging deep on the outside, have to maintain their width because they cannot get beat down the sideline. So one place that is always good to target is the middle of the field. And that's where Shaheed, who is, the pass catcher that you're really worried about from the Saints, because their offense this year seems to really be predicated on running the ball with Kamara and deep shots to Shaheed. So those are the 2 people who it's most important to stop. So here, as you can see, Shaheed, essentially, they get him one-on-one with the safety. And what really makes this play is how Shaheed runs this route. So what we want to do is we want to focus here on Bryan Cook, who is the safety that has the deep half on the side he starts running towards. So when you're in the middle, Justin Reed is occupied over here. Cook has 2 deep guys coming in, but he clearly is keying on Shaheed, which is the right decision. As we said, he's their big deep threat. Now watch how Shaheed starts by challenging like he's coming up toward the seam. And then at this point, Cook is still backpedaling. And what is key to watch about this route is what he does as Cook starts. So he's gaining ground on Cook. At some point here, because he's so fast, Cook is going to have to turn his hips and run with him. Otherwise, Shaheed's just going to blow right by him. So watch what Shaheed does here. Cook at this point is starting to turn his hips. You can see his body rotate. Watch very carefully right here. Cook's body starts to rotate right there. And as he's rotating it, and I do believe that this timing is intentional. I don't think it's just a coincidence that Shaheed is doing it at the exact same time. As he's rotating, Shaheed starts to come and push to the outside. So Cook has started to rotate as if Shaheed is running straight up the middle, which is, like we said, is a very dangerous place in the cover 2. So look, he sees Shaheed running. Cook here starts turning his hips to run with Shaheed. Well, Shaheed then starts challenging the outside. So Cook then has to swivel because now if he's running there, Cook's going to be out of position for his turn that way. So he gets here, and then Cook gets wrong-footed and has to turn back. And again, the timing is so perfect. Look now. Look at Cook. He's starting to turn back. And again, right at that time, what does Shaheed do? So he's pushed out. He gets Cook to turn that way. So really, first, he pushes up. He gets Cook to turn in. He pushes out. He gets Cook to turn that way. And then he goes. And look at what it does to Bryan Cook. It gets him to completely spun around. And Shaheed's faster than Cook. So once he gets him in that position, like, he's gone. There is no way Cook is going to catch him. I mean, this is a beautiful route. And, you know, if you kind of speed it up, you can start to see the subtleties of the movement. He starts really, like, pushing this way. And again, the timing is so important. He turns right as Cook opens his hips. Right at that moment, you can see he's starting to go. He must be paying such close attention to Cook's movements. And then again, as Cook swivels, he, like, at this moment in his head, he knows, I got him, I am gone. And there's just no way that Cook can catch him at this point. It's a beautiful route. And credit where credit's due. Derek Carr, one of the things he does extremely well is throws a very accurate deep ball. So now let's kind of track this ball from his hand. He throws it. Beautiful ball right in stride. Maybe one could argue like a little half a foot long, but essentially a perfect throw. And Shaheed extends and makes the catch. Great catch. Touchdown Saints, and suddenly they are back in a game that the Chiefs had been dominating. The guy in this view to watch is Mike Dana. He kind of wins slowly, but this is a good rush. He does manage to put a little bit of pressure at Carr at the end of this throw to make him hurry it just a tad. But Carr does a good job on this play of standing in, taking the hit, and making an accurate throw. And then you can see Shaheed long gone for a touchdown. So it becomes 10-7 Chiefs. All right, we're still at a 10-7 ball game. This is the next drive after the Saints touchdown. The Chiefs have the ball and are trying to answer with a score. And they are faced with a second and short here at their 39-yard line. And the Chiefs are here lined up in 12 personnel. This is Kareem Hunt, the running back, and they have two tight ends, Noah Gray and Travis Kelce. Then their two wide receivers are Juju Smith-Schuster and Xavier Worthy. The Saints appear to be in a single high man look. They've got number one here just chasing Juju. So they are lined up in a cover one man. And what the Chiefs end up trying to run from this is they run a play action concept. So they know that their two tight end set gives you a high likelihood of a run, or at least higher than running like an 11 personnel. And the Chiefs during this game actually made it a real point of emphasis to run the ball. Although when they got single high looks like this, they did throw the ball more. But so they've got kind of this jet sweep action, which is drawing eyes, like Juju's coming over here. And they're running a play action this way. And so the line is all blocking down as if there is a run play to that side. So in the midst of this chaos, you got Juju coming over, you're going to have Hunt taking the handoff, and the line is run blocking over to the left. And so they're trying to draw these underneath guys up. In the middle of all that, he's not starting with a jet motion, but Worthy's going to run underneath at the snap. So let's watch this all happen. So here comes Juju. You can see the line here blocking over to the left, and they leave Cam Jordan unblocked. Noah Gray is releasing out on a pass pattern, and Travis Kelce is going to come on a pass pattern out here too. And through all this, Worthy is going to come unencumbered along the line of scrimmage underneath. One of the reasons you run a jet sweep motion is to try to put this end in conflict, right? He's going to have to decide whether to do anything about this jet motion or just to straight rush the quarterback as an unblocked guy. Remember, since this is man coverage, the person responsible for covering Worthy is all the way over here at the start of the snap. So he's having to kind of run through and figure out, look at the distance between him and Worthy here. So Worthy runs that underneath jet. Cam Jordan decides to let Worthy through and go after Mahomes. And this is probably the coolest part of the play. Just watch the touch on this pass from Mahomes. He just kind of pops it right over, hits him right there. Worthy is able to run right under it. And once he's in the open field right here, look, you got one guy, you got Matthew, and then you have Gray's guy. This is where he gets real dangerous. And he's able to get one guy miss and end up with a 15-yard gain on this pass that he caught at about the 39-yard line, and very quickly is able to get down to about the 44 or 43 of New Orleans. So this play was part for the creativity and design. They've got everything going this way, got everyone flowing that way, and Worthy's guy is way behind. They've got Worthy coming across, and it becomes like a 2-on-1 game here. They've got Jordan unblocked, and they just have to figure out to get him to commit one way, and then once he commits to Mahomes, he just pops it right up over the top. A nice little touch pass to Worthy, and turns into a pretty big gain. Now we can see it from the end zone view. So watch this line right here and how they kind of flow. I mean, they are really selling the run blocking here. Here comes Juju over, run blocking over the left, and look at that little touch pass. Beautiful. And then once Worthy gets going, he gets going. Gets a nice gain for the Chiefs. All right, we're now on the same drive, same score. Chiefs still up 10-7. They're about 4:10 to go in the second quarter. And the Chiefs are facing a 3rd and 21. They actually had a 2nd and 34 and gained 13 yards on a short pass to Juju Smith-Schuster. And here they're at 3rd and 21. And based on the play design, it looks like they're really just trying to get into field goal range. So what they end up doing, they're here in 11 personnel. They've got Ajay Perine as their running back, Kelce as their tight end, and they've got 3 wide receivers. Juju Smith-Schuster is on top, Justin Watson's on the line on this side, and Xavier Worthy's off the line here. So what they end up doing is Juju comes in and runs an in cut. Justin Watson runs a clear out. Worthy runs an out. And Kelce kind of comes out and just tries to settle underneath, knowing that all the linebackers, everybody's just dropping into a deep zone because they don't want to give up a first down. And this is where then Travis Kelce becomes Travis Kelce. So here's what we're talking about. Justin Watson is starting to clear out. Juju's coming up. And Worthy's coming on his out. And Kelce is just kind of hanging out and setting up underneath. And look how deep the drops are here, because really they're just putting this is cover 4. They're just putting a deep shell. They won't want us to get there. And so the idea behind this play is to just get it underneath to Kelce, have him gain some yardage, and get yourself in a position where Harrison Butker can kick a long field goal. Here's what Kelce does. Kelce takes this pass and starts taking it across the field. And on this side of the field, Ajay Perine had been helping with a little chip, and then now starts working his way up the field. Kelce sees him approaching, and you can tell he's getting ready. And he, as the defense collapses on him, he chucks a lateral back to Perine, who gets an extra 15 yards from where Kelce got him the ball, and ends up making this like a 4th and about a half. So this is Travis Kelce's genius. I know, people will cite the fact that in the pre-halftime interview, Andy Reid said something to Lisa Salters to the effect of, we run this every day in practice. And those who follow the Chiefs closely know that Kelce attempts laterals a lot in practice, but the Chiefs don't run like scripted plays with laterals. The idea is just that Kelce, when he gets the ball, is going to try to make something happen if he thinks he can. And that's what's happening here. I don't think this is a scripted play at all. this is a play that looks designed to just get the ball to Kelce and get enough of a gain. Perine happens to follow along, and my guess is this is probably, I know Perine hasn't been in Kansas City that long, but he's probably been in practice enough to know that when he's doing stuff like this, make yourself available for a lateral. You never know. If you can't get ahead of him to block, stay behind him and be ready to catch one. And that's what happened, and it turned into a big game, and the Chiefs actually converted on 4th and 1. So very creative play, very big gain, and we can see it a little more from the end zone cam. So here is the dump off, and you can see Kelce thinking about it from he's got his eyes lateral. He's looking. He's aware of Perine's position. He gets it out there, kind of chucks it to him. Honestly, I think the underrated aspect of it is he really does just kind of toss it to him, and it's quite an accurate toss, and it hits him in stride. That's pretty good. He just flips it to him, and Perine manages to get up and close to the first down marker. Very creative play from the Chiefs, and it's the kind of thing that Kelce does what Kelce does. All right, at this point, we're nearing the end of the second quarter. The Chiefs have added a field goal to their tally, so they're up 13-7. The Saints have gotten the ball after that field goal drive, and they are now facing a 3rd and 7 at their 24-yard line. The Saints here are lined up in what looks like 11 personnel. There's one running back, one tight end. And the Chiefs have matched this. They actually appear to be in their dime package. They have 6 defensive backs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The only linebacker on the field is Nick Bolton. So this is their dime package. And Chris Jones, if you notice on the line, is lined up way outside of the tackle, and Dana is still staying outside of him. So he's trying to rush very wide. What the Chiefs look like they're doing on defense is a cover 2 man. So they've got their 2 deep safeties responsible for deep halves, and everybody else is manned up. It looks like Reed has got the tight end. Bolton has Kamara. Manned up. The Saints decide to try to run a 3rd and 7 screen to Kamara. So if you notice, Kamara is going to leak over at the snap, and they're going to have their 2 guards try to come out and lead block for the screen. And watch how quickly Nick Bolton identifies this. I think my guess would be something about the way that Kamara leaked over here was a tell for Nick Bolton from film study. Let's watch this. Watch as Kamara starts moving. Look at Bolton. He's almost not even looking at Kamara anymore. You see, look at his eyes. His head is turned this way. So he saw something already in that first step that Kamara took. Look at how hard Bolton plants his foot in the ground here, and then starts making his way over between the 2 guards following Kamara. He knows exactly what's happening. Literally, as Carr has just caught the ball and taking his first step back, look at Bolton's reaction. Plants a foot in the ground. Let's go. He knows, and he's decisive. And this is the real advantage. They say, to play defense well, you got to be able to play instinctively, which means that you can't be thinking. You have to know. Clearly, Bolton is so prepared. He knows what's going on. He comes in, he shoots the gap between the 2 guards, and one of the things, Bolton is as good as anyone in the league when he's playing downhill, and the Chiefs have 2 guys like this, maybe even 3 if you add McDuffie. But Justin Reed is like this too. He's probably, another, I would argue, maybe the best at his position playing downhill. Bolton might be the best at his position playing downhill. When they get that, they know what they're seeing. They're coming downhill. Just look at the way he makes this tackle. There's nobody better in the league than him at this. When he hits people, they go down, and that was a huge stop on 3rd down to get the ball back for the Chiefs offense. So one more time, see it from here. And if you watch carefully, you can see the moment where Bolton realizes, okay, he knows what he's doing. He knows what's going on. Huge stop there. Again, if you watch it, this gives you a nice visual of the moment again We can run it slow to start. But look, he takes a step and look at, he's seeing Kamara go. Look at how how he turned his head. He's not even looking at him anymore. He knows. At this moment, he knows what he's doing. He gets between the two guards, makes a big stop. I mean, this is why someone like Spags loves Nick Bolton. This is why he's such a useful player to have on your team. I think, there can be reasonable debates about how much he's worth in today's NFL and what kind of contract he should get. But those who don't think he's a very good player, I don't know what to tell you. He's very good at what he does. He has some deficiencies that are tough in the modern NFL, but he is clearly a plus player and a real plus player on this team. May not be elite, but he's kind of the tier below that. Let's watch this again. Quick ID, he's over, decisive, boom. Just blew up the play. Not a chance. All right, we're now under a minute to go in the second quarter. The Chiefs are up 13-7 with the ball, and they've got a 2nd and 10 here at their 36-yard line. There's, I think, 53 seconds to go in the half. So the Saints kind of start this defensively by putting everybody up on the line. So the coverage is a little confusing to start. It's kind of difficult to see at this point. The line has to account for the fact that it is possible that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys rush. So this looks like a situation they might be bringing an all-out blitz, a cover 0 blitz, and there are 3 people back. But the Saints end up dropping out of this and only rushing 4 and actually running a standard cover 2. This is a Tampa 2. So the difference being that the middle linebacker will run with a deep player down the middle. Remember, we talked about in an earlier video in this game is that the cover 2 is susceptible in the deep middle. So what some teams do to combat that is if someone is running that way, they'll send a linebacker with them, the middle linebacker, so it essentially becomes like a cover 3 defense. So this is something where it's going to require a little bit of a post-snap adjustment, right? If everyone's actually coming, then you want to get it hot. Kelce has nobody over him in this situation. But when people drop out, then you got to readjust and figure out what your route combinations are going to do against this defense that was difficult to read from the start. You didn't expect you were getting these 2 high safeties when you just had Matthew back and it looked like everybody else was coming. So what are the Chiefs doing here? They've got Xavier Worthy running down the sideline. They've got Kelce coming in and running an out route and trying to find a hole in the zone. Watson runs a deep clear out route down the middle. That's the one that the middle linebacker was chasing. And Juju's route I find very interesting, how he kind of bent it around and got to another spot in the cover 2 that we talk about, which is your hole shot. So when you run a cover 2, the 2 safeties have deep half responsibilities, but the corners can either drop back in like cloud coverage, in which case the flat tends to be open, or they can come down and cover the flat, in which case there is a space between the corner and the safety that they call the hole shot. So this is another area where the cover 2 can be susceptible. And if you notice on this play, this corner is kind of dropping back more in like cloud coverage, but this corner is playing the flat, and you have the deep safety back here, so there is a void here. The hole shot is open here. And I want you to watch what Juju does, because Juju doesn't seem to be running like a prescribed route. When you see people running the route like it's drawn up on paper, you see them run it like Justin Watson's running it. So let's watch Justin Watson on this rep. Look at his head down, and he's going. He's turning back to look for the ball, but he's like decisively moving, right? He knows what he's doing. It's drawn up on paper. He's trying to clear out. He's trying to get some defenders coming deep to create underneath space for other people. If for some reason no one runs with him, he's available as a deep shot, but he's got to be there to occupy defenders. So this is a man that's kind of running a route that's prescribed for him. I would say the same thing about Worthy. Let's watch Worthy now. Worthy's coming up the field, and he's going. He's running with a purpose. He turns his head here to try to see if, locate a ball. But now we know that Travis Kelce doesn't always just run prescribed routes, and you can see how he's running with intention. Here's Kelce here to start his route. This is where he's just trying to find a pocket in the zone. Okay, so he's trying to settle down, little hole in the zone. Now watch Juju. Watch what Juju Smith-Schuster does on his route. He comes up, tries to get past the flat defender, and now look at what he's doing. He's looking back, and he's kind of slowly ambling into space. Like he's running like on a diagonal, looking back at Mahomes, settling into space. I don't think this is like a drawn-up route for Juju. I think that Juju recognizes he's got a deep safety and a flat defender, and that at least this half of the field is playing cover 2, and he understands if that defender's playing the flat, this is an open area. And I think he's just kind of floating to the open area. And we know that Andy Reid gives his receivers freedom to read coverages and react based on coverages. And the idea is that you and the quarterback have to read the coverage the same way. Otherwise, the quarterback's going to throw based on what he thinks you're going to do. And if you're doing it differently because you read the coverage differently, that's going to lead to a lot of bad throws and potential interceptions. So, but one of the reasons why it takes receivers a long time to get settled in the Chiefs' offense when they first come into it is because you have to do these sight reads and find open areas. And this to me is Juju just being like, hey, I know what the coverage is. This is what we give credit to Kelce for all the time. I know what the coverage is. The whole shot's going to be open. I'm going to come settle in. He catches it there. Mahomes finds him. And this ends up being a 31-yard gain. A huge play in a 2-minute drill trying to get a field goal. So I'm going to play it at full speed. But again, watch Juju. Oh. Here we are. Watch Juju. Gets a snap, comes out, and look at him just kind of, he makes himself available, just drops back into the hole. I really think that this was just Juju reading the coverage and finding an open area. And now if we look at Mahomes was actually looking to the left. So he looks like he wants Kelce. He's looking over to the left to see about Kelce. He doesn't like what he has, and he actually looks down the middle now at Watson. And then at the last minute turns over and sees Juju going to the open area. So that was good patience from Mahomes too, kind of really reading the whole field and at least getting to his third read on that play and finding an area that he's comfortable with getting the ball out. It does look like, Mahomes has thrown like this to Kelce before, right? This is not a huge window, right? He's got a defender here. This is a tough throw. And maybe it's a throw that Mahomes thinks is too risky given, being up 13-7, kind of dominating the game. They want to maintain possession and get a field goal. So he might not be that comfortable making this throw right now, but he's made throws like that, but you can understand that it's not a huge window. But he looks over that way first, then you see him kind of look down the middle and wonder if this shot is there. I think he did maybe Watson could get there, but I think he did a good job turning that down, particularly because of how this guy's already at full sprint. Matthews on top of the play, even though he is way out wide, so I don't know if he'd be able to get over there, but definitely you've got him coming in and he's got an angle based on the way that Watson's running. So I think it was a good idea to turn that down, and then this is where he's about to release to Juju, who's just floating into space. This is a really good connection the two of them have, and it's nice to see it come back after Juju was such an essential receiver in 2022. So back to what we were talking about, we can really see Mahomes' eyes in this setting. He's looked over to Kelce, he's looked down to Watson. comes all the way over and finds Juju, who did a great job settling. 31-yard gain. Suddenly we're cooking when we're looking for a field goal on this possession. All right, now we've got the Saints with the ball with 8:08 to go in the third quarter. They've got a 3rd and 12 at midfield, and they're still down 16-7. So on this play here, the Saints look to be lined up in 11 personnel. Well, actually, this is 21 because it looks like this is a running back and this is a running back. And they got one tight end. So this is 21 personnel with 2 true receivers on the field. Again, if there are mistakes here, I apologize because I don't know the Saints personnel that well. But this looks like we've got 2 running backs, unless this is a receiver in the backfield. So this is either 21 or 11 personnel, depending on whether this fellow is a running back. And the Chiefs have matched this, and they are in their dime package again. So dime meaning there's 6 defensive backs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And Jalen Watson is number 6 right here. And they're showing at the snap, they're showing a single high man, but they actually drop Chamari Connor at the snap. So this is a cover 2. They're doing cover 2 man. And what the Saints try to do out of this formation, they're going to have Kamara just run a little out route. Olave is going to get an inside release and then come in on a dig. And Tipton is going to come around and ultimately run a corner pattern. Over here, you're just going to get a clear and then come out for a deep out route over there. So what kind of starts the pass rush part of this is that Watson and Bolton are up at the line of scrimmage. And so you see it in the pass protection about how they need to be accounted for. So if you look at the snap, the right tackle here is accounting for Watson. And if you look down at Bolton, you can see the center here is clearly accounting for Bolton. Now, neither of these two rush, but because they have linemen that are accounting for them, it then kind of clears up, especially the situation with Watson, it clears up other linemen. So since Watson's being accounted for by the right tackle, Karlaftis hits the tight end on the edge, who ultimately is chipping him, but he's able to take the chip and get around the corner far enough that the right tackle's not able to recover and help block him. And the reason why that was possible was because Watson had shown blitz, and so the right tackle had to be ready for him. So that helped get Karlaftis right into Carr's sight line up against a running back and help move him off his spot. And the other part of this being, Turk Wharton just manhandles the left guard here and pushes the pocket in. And Chris Jones, since the center was initially having eyes on Bolton, Chris Jones is able to kind of split what would have been a double team and continue to push the pocket inward from his position too. Had the center been able to immediately double, it might not have been this easy. So you get the combination of, and Dana actually does a good job pushing the pocket too. So Karlaftis is up against a running back. He is collapsing that pocket from this side. The two tackles are doing a great job pushing things in from here, and Dana is collapsing the pocket. It's just a nice team pass rush. And ultimately, Derek Carr gets sacked by Turk Wharton. So the D-line just did a great job of collapsing the pocket there and creating the sack. Now, the question is, when Carr's back here, who is his guy? Like, who should he be throwing to? What should he be looking for? Well, the Chiefs, we said, are in cover 2 man, and out of this bunch, it looks like there's quite a miscommunication that leads to a receiver really running open. So Olave, we said, is going to run his dig, and out of the bunch, Najee Johnson seems to be the guy that's taken the outside guy. So Najee Johnson gets Olave. it does seem like Justin Reed is the guy that's supposed to take the inside guy. And that becomes complicated because Tipton is going to release inside, but as the point guy, McDuffie jams him off the line. And it seems like because McDuffie jams him, Reed seems to think that McDuffie is going to run with him. But since he's going inside, McDuffie thinks that Reed is going to run with him, so McDuffie leaves him and comes over to Kamara. Since Reed thought McDuffie was going to run with him, Reed steps over to Kamara and just lets Tipton release into the middle of the field completely by himself. He's wide open. Carr here is hitting the back of his drop. This is where, like, it's nice to have the privileges that Andy Reid gives his team, where you can sight adjust your route. Like, at this point, what is the point of coming out and running your corner pattern back into a sea of defenders when you've just been given a free inside release and there's nobody in the middle of the field? Like, this is the benefit of being able to adjust your route. Tipton is not even looking for the ball. I mean, he seems like a robot on this play. He is literally just head down, I'm running my route. I don't know that Carr can throw this ball to him. He's wide open here. But what do you do if you're Derek Carr? This man doesn't have any awareness of anything that's going on. This is probably a clear out route in their offense. And he's just like, go, 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 go. You almost wonder if he even knows that he's not being covered. Like, just watch him as he runs. Head down, go, 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 go. Like, he just ran completely free down the middle of the field. And instead of, I don't know, anything, sitting here, coming across, running, I mean, look at all this room. If he made himself available to Derek Carr here in the middle of the field, I mean, this is a big gain. And Carr seems to be looking, but I feel like it was actually smart of him not to throw this because he seems to have no idea. Like, if a ball came, it would, like, hit him in the back. He's not looking whatsoever. Very strange play from that perspective. The kind of miscommunication here, blown coverage, and then Tipton just, like, running all the way. And look, he completes his corner pattern and gets back toward the coverage. But in the meantime, Derek Carr gets sacked. And let's see this from the end zone view. You can see where Carr's eyes are. See, he's looking right down the middle of the field. We can see Tipton, like, start to come into the screen here. I don't think there's any chance that Derek Carr doesn't see him. Now, he does get moved off his spot pretty quick. So one could argue that at this point, you know, his eyes have come down like he's just trying to escape the rush. So maybe it's a moot point. Maybe if Tipton had come to the middle, it would still have been too late and Carr would have been sacked. But, I mean, this would have been one time to throw one of your fadeaway YOLO balls, right? Like, there's nobody around him. But ultimately, Tipton didn't turn around, so a fadeaway YOLO ball would not be wise. He had to eat this for the sack. Now the Chiefs have 1st and 10 on their own 39-yard line with 3:55 to go in the third quarter. The score is still 16-7 Kansas City. They've continued to control this game, but don't have the points to show for it yet. They have kicked 3 field goals, and they've missed a 4th, with the 1 touchdown being on their first drive with the ball. So several red zone trips, only 1 touchdown, and they feel like you would imagine at this point you either at least want to be up 19-7, but that missed field goal is added on. This could have been a blowout if the Chiefs were able to take more advantage of their red zone opportunities. But here we are, third quarter, still up 9, and they've got 1st and 10 at their 39-yard line, and they dial up a shot play. So what they're going to do here, first of all, they're in 12 personnel. There's the 1 running back, Kareem Hunt, and their 2 tight ends are Noah Gray and Travis Kelce right here. That leaves your 2 wide receivers, Xavier Worthy and Juju Smith-Schuster. So what they're going to do is they're going to run a play action across the formation, and the line is going to block down as if it's run blocking. That means they're going to leave Chase Young unblocked. And similarly to how they handled the shot play to Worthy against the Chargers last week, what they're going to do is first they're going to have Noah Gray come across and block, and then they're going to pull Creed Humphrey over and block. And they seem to intentionally try to shift the pocket and Mahomes away from Worthy. And we'll kind of see why we think they are doing that. So let's kind of see what we talked about to this point. So here comes Gray over. Remember, he's going to go block the unblocked Chase Young. And then Humphrey is going to come and assist. And Kareem Hunt is going to come right. The line is all going to go right, simulating a run. So here we go. There's the fake handoff. Here comes Noah Gray to come over and help block. And there's Creed Humphrey. He is pulled. All of this to give Mahomes time for his shot play. And as you see, the Saints are in a single high coverage. So they're doing cover one man here. So Tyrann Mathieu is their one deep safety. And so one of the reasons they roll the pocket over to the left is it kind of draws Mathieu over to this side of the field. So they seem to intentionally be moving the pocket away from Worthy. And so now you see Worthy is out here by the numbers. He's still squarely in the middle of the field, even though you would think a safety would be shaded over this way because this is the fastest guy in the history of the NFL Combine. But look how far over Mathieu is. He's in no position to make a play on this. Like, this is true one-on-one coverage, and I think a lot of it is due to the play design. The way that they move the pocket over and set it up so Mahomes would have time due to the play action and the line moving everyone over here, and they're pulling Worthy and keeping Gray just to make sure that Mahomes has time to make a throw. So he launches an absolute bomb to Worthy, who is, half step ahead of his defender. Mathieu isn't able to get over there at time, and the defender is just too physical, resulting in Worthy being taken down while they were trying to get over to the ball. So this is a pass interference penalty, and the ball ended up being placed at the spot of the foul. Man, you really feel like Worthy had a great shot at this. I will say credit to 29 for running with him. Worthy's a really fast guy trying to track this ball, so you're always going to be a little slower when you're trying to find a ball in the air, but he ran with him well. It's just that the defender was making no effort to track the ball and unfortunately was a little bit too aggressive and ended up taking down Worthy. It ended up being a fairly straightforward pass interference call here and really changed the field position for Kansas City. But to me, I think the interesting part of this play is how, we're looking at a two tight end set. We're looking at off of play action, moving the line to the right, and the way that they move Creed and Gray over to block and intentionally move Mahomes. You can only do this if your quarterback has this strong of an arm that he can not only launch it that far down the field, but he's launching it across the field as well to the other side. All of that to get Mathieu out of the picture. And it all works to perfection. They get Worthy, Mahomes goes for it, and they get a pass interference call. In hindsight, kind of given what happened later on this drive, maybe one would wish that they didn't interfere with it. Maybe Worthy would have scored. But look at him launch this ball down the field, and you can see the interference there. And you can see what we were talking about earlier with Creed coming over and Gray's about to come into the screen too, helping block Young and making sure Mahomes has the time to make this deep throw. Ultimately, the Chiefs got great field position here due to the penalty. All right, we now have 1:53 to go in the third quarter, and the Chiefs have 2nd and goal at the Saints' 2-yard line. The Chiefs are lined up here in 21 personnel. They've got 2 running backs. That's Kareem Hunt and Samaje Perine. And their one tight end is Noah Gray over here. And they end up running a run-pass option play. So on these run pass options, the quarterback, the line is going to block as if it's run blocking, right? So you really need as a quarterback to make a decision quickly, because you have the option right here of handing this ball off to Kareem Hunt, and if you see, they've got Trey Smith pulling, they've got Perine leading, so if he likes the numbers here for a run, you hand this ball off. Otherwise, you have kind of a slant and then a corner pattern combination. And again, if you're going to throw it, you got to throw it quick, because the line is run blocking, and you don't want to get linemen in it illegally downfield. So you got to release that ball quickly after you've made the decision. So the decision point here is, if you look at the numbers, they've got basically 9 in the box here, and only these 2 defenders. So from a number standpoint, you really like holding on to this and throwing the ball, right? They've committed, and then not only that, but the kind of pick concept works really well. Initially, it looks like that Juju is coming free. You wish, ideally for Worthy, if Worthy runs this flatter so he can get underneath Juju's defender, this is like a walk-in touchdown, right? You don't want to contact the defender. You will be called for offensive pass interference here if you're not very clearly running a route in this situation. But you would think that with this kind of gap between Juju and his defender, the move for Worthy would be to come through the gap here. That increases the probability that Worthy's defender collides with the defender, and it just gives a little more that the defender has to contend with to get over to Juju. But so the one kind of real flaw in this is that Worthy runs over the top of the defender, which allows him to close hard on Juju on the slant. And it's not ideal ball placement from Mahomes. The throw ends up being at his back shoulder, which in this case, with the defender coming from behind, you'd rather have the ball put on Juju's right shoulder, harder to dislodge. But in any case, he gets it on his body, and unfortunately, you gotta catch this as a receiver. Juju takes the hit, and the ball pops up in the air, and then all credit to Khalen Saunders, who made, corralled that ball in with one hand and brought it in, made a nice catch, and then ended up rumbling all the way past the 30-yard line to about the 35. One of the most athletic people in the league. But I think, decision-wise from Mahomes' standpoint, this is the right call. It's the right route to throw. I do wish Worthy had, instead of coming across, had come under. I tell you what, I bet Justin Watson runs under. But that would have created enough separation that this would probably be a moot point. Juju, it was the first time I noticed this was when it was pointed out by Chris Collinsworth when Juju had a drop in the opener at the goal line, is that he tends to catch the ball, the bottom of the ball, with his hands. He kind of catches underneath the ball with his hands, and Chris Collinsworth was talking about how when you catch the ball like that, it makes it easier for it to pop out on a hit. It's really unfortunate that happened. The Chiefs were up 16-7, and we're in a great position here to try to blow this game open. Here you can see the numbers game part of the RPO from this vantage point. So you see everybody is playing, basically everyone except the wide receivers is playing like this is a run, and Mahomes has to make a decision. And, look, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, Saunders does end up dropping back at the throw, but he's in the box for the run. If they hand this ball off, all these guys are involved in the run play. So I think pulling it is the right choice for Mahomes. He makes this throw, hits Juju in the back shoulder, and comes out. At this view, we can't really see that bottom catch that I was talking about, but on the TV broadcast replays, you could see it. Great catch by Khalen Saunders, and it's just fun to watch this guy run. He's so quick and he's so athletic. Got all a good tackle by Tooney. Got all the way down to the 35-yard line, but that tough play for the Chiefs. Really had a chance to blow the game open, but instead the Saints were very much alive, down 16-7, and now with... All right, well, we just showed you Khalen Saunders' interception, and the Saints took the ball down on that drive and scored a touchdown but missed the extra point. So at this point, the Chiefs are now up 16-13, and they've got the ball 2nd and 6 at their own 36 or so yard line. So the Chiefs are lined up here. They've got one running back, that's Kareem Hunt, one tight end, that's Travis Kelce, and their 3 wide receivers are Justin Watson, Xavier Worthy, and Juju Smith-Schuster. The Saints are initially showing single high, but as Juju starts running across the formation on a jet motion, Tyrann Mathieu spins down and looks to be taking Juju in man coverage. So this actually ends up being, I meant to say they're showing cover 2, not single high. I misspoke. But as Juju comes across, then Tyrann Mathieu spins down and looks to be taking him. And so they're actually in single high coverage with Jonathan Abram as the deep safety. Now, the Chiefs' route combination here is they've got Worthy running a corner pattern. You know, the route that Tipton was running earlier where I said he wasn't looking back at the ball, and so Carr had no chance to get it to him even though he was wide open. It's a similar, if not the exact same route. You kind of come in and then come back to the corner. Xavier Worthy is running an over, and Juju comes out of, so he was running that jet motion, he comes out of it, and he runs an over two behind Xavier Worthy. And this is a concept the Chiefs have used a couple times in this game. So what they're trying to do is get one guy on the over to kind of clear out the middle and then trail another guy behind, and he's the guy they're really looking for in the route. Kelce kind of stays in the block initially and then leaks out late. But if you watch this combination, you can see Worthy comes over and Juju is still here, and after Watson kind of clears out, Juju then is going to make his cut in and follow Worthy on the over. Juju actually makes a good cut and Mathieu loses his footing, so Juju ends up actually popping wide open over the middle. Mahomes sees him, gets him the ball, and this ends up being a huge gain after the catch. The total pass play ended up being 50 yards, and the Chiefs got down the field in a hurry on this one. But this will be a concept to look for this year. It looks like something that the Chiefs are really starting to do. The one guy coming over, second guy coming over after things have been cleared out a little bit. And, even if Mathieu doesn't slip, you're trailing a guy in one-on-one coverage with essentially no help. Jonathan Abram is way deep. Everybody else is chasing a man, so even if unless Matthew's really able to stick with him, if he didn't slip, this is still a tough ask in the open field to just be running with someone like Juju and get a huge gain here. And now you can see it from the end zone view from Mahomes' perspective. So there goes Juju on the jet motion. They're in a play action. There's Worthy coming, and Watson's going to clear out and creating everybody's kind of run through, and Juju, after Mathieu slip, just flies through the middle completely unencumbered. Gets all the way down the field for a huge gain. So a modicum of redemption after the drop that led to an interception. All right, we're still in the same drive. The Chiefs up 16-13, and now they have first and goal at the New Orleans 3-yard line. Now, Mahomes is in kind of a pistol with Travis Kelce at sidecar, but they end up shifting to have Kelce behind center and Worthy and Steele on either side of him. Now, those of you that have been following the Chiefs for a while or are paying attention to those discerning people that are posting this on Twitter Well, remember that this is a kind of formation that the Chiefs have run before, and they've run a similar play out of this. Basically, it's a zone read. It's an option for Travis Kelce to decide whether he's going to hand this to Worthy coming across or keep this and go. And the first time I recall this being used was in 2016. The Chiefs played a Sunday night football game in Denver, which ended up being a fairly wild game. It started out as a defensive struggle. I remember the Chiefs first scored with a safety. Justin Houston sacked Trevor Siemian. And then on the ensuing safety punt, Tyreek Hill returned it for a touchdown. So I think the Chiefs started out 9-0, but it actually looked pretty dire in the fourth quarter, and they managed to come down and get a touchdown and 2-point conversion at the very end, descended into overtime. And the game-winning field goal, Khalen Saunders hit it off the upright, and it went in to win the game. It was a wild Sunday night football game. It honestly felt like a little bit of a turning point for the Andy Reid Chiefs, because through the first 3 years that Andy was there, I think we went 11-5, then 9-7, then 11-5. But it felt like when we were playing really good teams in really big games, and especially really tight games, we would lose. And this was, Denver, they had lost Peyton, they were defending champs, but they didn't have Peyton Manning anymore. But they were a good team, and they were playing well in that game. This was Sunday Night Football. It was a really big game, and we managed to pull it out. And it did kind of feel like this was different. Of course, things really changed 2 years later when Mahomes started playing. But it was a big game, and I feel like it was psychologically a little bit of a turning point. Now, all of that to say that in that game, we scored a touchdown in which Spencer Ware was actually the one in this position, and Tyreek Hill was here, and Spencer Ware handed it to Tyreek Hill, and as you see on this play, the edge is unblocked. That was Von Miller, and Tyreek Hill actually managed to get around Von Miller, who put up gave him much more of a challenge than Granderson did in this position. And Hill just kind of scooted around and got into the end zone because he's faster than everybody. The other time I remember this formation used, they used this in 2019, the year that the Chiefs won the Super Bowl 54 in New England. And Kelce was snapping the ball in that game. And Kelce ended up keeping it and running it for a touchdown. There's one other instance, actually, that I remember this formation being used, and that was in the playoffs after the 2021 season in the Super Wildcard round. The Chiefs hosted Pittsburgh, and they ran this formation, and Kelce actually threw a touchdown pass to Byron Pringle from this formation. Anyway, it was a lot of discussion to lead into this play, but we got to see this formation again tonight, and Kelce ended up handing to Worthy. So the Chiefs, they pull Tooney, and Carson Steele ends up lead blocking. And so Mahomes Kelce hands to Worthy. They've left the edge unblocked, but he's not going to be able to challenge Worthy at all in this situation. Carson Steele actually kind of whiffs on this block here. He's able to get a hand on him and keep him outside a little bit, and then he comes up and blocks Abrams here. And I feel like when Tyreek Hill did this, Tyreek Hill, and you would see this a lot, his instinct was always to kind of get to the edge and run around people, and he generally could. I feel like Worthy did a great job here of just cutting this up, and I think the defender here was not prepared for that. He kind of cut it up and got in between and scored. Like, I would have thought if you showed me this picture right here, I would have thought he would just run for the pylon, and that might have worked. But Worthy does seem to have like slightly better vision than a lot of people with his skill set, and he's good at, he did this too on his end around against the Ravens. He kind of cut it up quickly, got north and south a lot quicker than I expected him to, and here too, he cut it up north and south, squeezed through the gap, and got in for a touchdown. Very nicely done. And now you can see it from Kelce's perspective. So he's going to snap it and hand it. And look at Worthy do a good job of just getting inside that outside guy and going up. I think, when you're this person, and so Steele did get, Steele did get a little bit of a hand on him, which kind of helped because Worthy ended up going right through here. But when you're this edge guy, like, you're just thinking of contain, right? You don't want him to get outside of you. So it can be very useful to cut up inside like that when you're as fast as Worthy is, because they're so worried about you beating them outside. In any case, it was a good touchdown, much needed touchdown for the Chiefs, who had been struggling for a little while to convert points, even though they were moving the ball really well. So this changed it from 16-13 to 23-13 and gave them breathing room again. Now for a final play of this film review, the Saints have the ball with 9:48 or so to go in the fourth quarter, and they've got a 4th and 8 at the Chiefs' 42-ish yard line. This to me was the play that kind of essentially ended the game, not only because Derek Carr got injured on this play, but also just because it kind of crushed any hope that the Saints had of coming back. They're down 2 scores at this point, 23-13, and they're going for it here on 4th down, not converting here, essentially shut the door on the game. And it's quite an interesting one to watch, this play. So the Saints here, this is a tight end, Foster Moreau. So they're in 11 personnel with the tight end and the running back starting lined up in the backfield. They essentially run vertical concepts. I think that Olave ultimately comes in, but they're kind of sending their guys vertical on this 4th down. And the Chiefs do what... I feel like anybody that has played, video games in my generation, I don't play a lot of that. I mean, I do have, I think, Madden 23, but I don't play much anymore as an adult. But when I was a kid, so to me, my Madden version was 2004. That was my game. And I used to have the NCAA football 2004 as well, which was a fantastic game. And anyone who's played those games and played them a lot cannot tell me that they didn't ever try to go engage 8 on a crucial play to just send the house and see what happens. Engage 8 was in that game, it was a cover 0 blitz where you'd send 8 and you'd have 2 corners and a safety basically just playing zones. Well, the Chiefs do, actually there was a man version of Engage 8 too, and that's what the Chiefs do here. They end up running a cover 0 blitz where they send 8, and they have 3 corners all in man-to-man coverage, and that's it. They basically just bring the house, and it looks like it's Connor that gets through and gets the hit on Carr. And again, like we talked about in the first clip of this video, Carr was retreating and lobbing up balls all day. This one was actually quite a good throw given the circumstances. He gets walloped. He's got a crazy rush on his face, and he threw one up there and gave Tipton a chance. You can see the ball coming down right here. Gave Tipton a chance, and he wasn't able to come up with it. I mean, what a gutsy play call from Spags, especially as they're starting and they're close. So you don't, it could be a too deep safety look, but it looks like that's not, when they're starting literally 7, the safety's 7 yards behind the line of scrimmage. Like, probably not too deep. You don't know. Maybe they'll drop back. But to have both of the safeties come and end up with 8 total is real. Like, they had 2 in to protect, so it was basically 8 on 7. They had their 5 linemen, and then they had Kamara and Moreau back in the backfield to protect, and the Chiefs just brought 1 extra guy, and Connor ended up coming free and getting a hit. Now, the thing I do want to say is I saw some on Twitter after this game, people saying that, like, look at this perfect throw by Derek Carr. Like, this play not working is Tipton's fault. Like, Carr threw a perfect pass and Tipton wasn't able to catch it. And I feel that's a little unfair to Tipton. Yes, given the circumstances, that was a very good throw from Derek Carr. But people were saying, like, oh, it's a perfect throw. It hit him in his hands. Well, part of the reason it hit him in his hands is Tipton did an awesome job of tracking this ball. Now, watch the route that Tipton's running and look at his trajectory. He's running along, like, right outside of the numbers, right? He's coming like this and trying to track the ball. This is probably a better line for his trajectory. And let us track the ball. I've already lost it on this. So let's see. Where is that football? It's right here. Okay. But before we even look at the ball, just remember he's running along the numbers. And now watch where his trajectory changes for him to run this ball down. Look at him wheel all the way out there. So this guy was running like this down the numbers, and he adjusted his trajectory to get out here. So part of the reason that looks like a perfect throw is Tipton did an awesome job tracking the ball and getting under it. And anyone who has ever even like recreationally played receiver knows that the hardest catch is the straight over your head catch. Over-the-shoulder catches are not that easy, especially for those of us that are not professional wide receivers, but over-the-head catches are very difficult. So, he's having to make an extremely tough catch, the toughest catch type to make. I mean, assuming we're not talking about like one-handed or being interfered with or something. And you can't just say like, oh, it was a perfect pass, he should have caught it. He made it perfect, right? Not that it was a bad throw. Like when you're got 8 coming at you and you just have to throw up a prayer, putting the ball in a position where your guy can run under it is good. But it also is extremely hard to do what Tipton just did. Track the ball, change your trajectory, and get there. Like, I feel like Tipton deserves as much credit for this play being close as Carr does. It's not like Carr did all the work and Tipton let him down. Like, Tipton went and got that ball, he found it, and it was a real tough ask to catch that over his head, and he wasn't able to make the catch. He couldn't make a tough catch, but the fact that it was even possible, if Tipton just kept running down the seam, like the narrative would have been like, wow, Carr was an inaccurate throw on 4th down, and they couldn't win. What makes this throw accurate is Tipton's ability to track it. Credit to Carr for putting it in a position where that was possible, but both of them did well to make this play as close as it was. And unfortunately, Tipton just couldn't haul it in. But I just didn't like the narrative that it was like, oh, Carr did a great job on this and Tipton just blew it. Like, they both did very well to almost complete a pass in a crazy situation where Spags is sending the house like a madman. We can see the blitz here from the end zone view. I mean, he just brings everyone, and Connor comes free. I mean, look at how he tracked this. Like, he adjusted his trajectory so much and was able to get out to this ball. I mean, that's a tough to change. Look at, you can see his initial trajectory being like this way, right? He comes all the way out and tries to get to that ball and isn't quite able to corral it while going over his head. I just feel like it's so unfair to be like, oh, Tipton let Carr down. Carr threw a perfect pass. Like, Tipton did so well to get in this position to almost catch this. Ultimately, it was Spags being Spags. Managed to get a crazy blitz going and got the Saints off the field. ultimately the Chiefs would come down and kick one more field goal and win this game 26-13. So that is it for the Week 5 Chiefs film review. Thank you to those of you who followed along, who've gotten to this point especially. Thank you. Chris and I will be recording a podcast later this week. Chris is unfortunately having to evacuate. He lives in Florida and he's having to evacuate due to the incoming hurricane. So we're not able to record at our regularly scheduled time, but we will be with you later this week for the weekly Steeler Thoughts, Chief Feelings breakdown of Week 5 and look ahead to Week 6. The Chiefs will not be playing in Week 6. They have a bye, but we'll look at the Steelers-Raiders matchup. All right. Well, thanks to all of you that follow along. Please download the podcast on whatever apps you download podcasts on. Follow us on YouTube. And remember, we're on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at STCF715. And on Twitter, we'll try to engage with people during the games and right after the Chiefs and Steelers games to talk about how they've been going. Also, forgot to add that the Steelers film review of their game, their Sunday Night Football game against the Cowboys, will probably be released tomorrow. So you can look forward to that as well. Thanks so much for following along. Until next time. We'll leave you with one more parting shot of that play.